IVM.
What is the goal of a creator? Is it to become famous? Or to tell stories that find a huge audience? What does it mean to have a voice as a creator? And how do you know when you found your voice? These are some big questions that every creator must face as their body of work grows. Today, I sit down with two women who seem to know what they're doing when it comes to nurturing their creative voice into commendable projects across the entertainment spectrum. Comedian Sumukhi Suresh is a tour de force. She's created shows that range from fiction with her prime original Pushpavalli to cooking with her original shows on Zomato to her stand-up comedy special Tell Amma. And Nisha Vasudevan, my other guest, who started as an animation creator, has also worked on branded and non-fiction projects at her own production studio, the Whimnasium, and is growing into one of the most articulate documentary voices in India with her recent Red Bull project, Breaking in India, at Supari Studios. Tune in for a great conversation with two amazing creators right after these messages on storytellers and story sellers.
Janice, what do you think couples did before TV was invented?
I don't know, go for walks on the beach, long drives, fancy dinners, have more sex maybe?
But what did we do when we decided to move in together? We debated between the Chromecast and the Fire Stick.
We gave up on sleeping early so we could stay up watching true crime shows.
We got ourselves 3 cat babies.
And basically became the cutest couch potatoes around.
Okay then.
In case you guys still haven't got it, we are a TV crazy, Netflix loving, binge watching Mr. and Mrs.
I'm Anirudh Guha.
I'm Janice Sequeira.
And if like us, you snort TV for breakfast, lunch and dinner, this is the podcast for you.
Tune in every Thursday on the IVM podcast app or wherever it is that you get your podcast from. This is
Mr.
and Mrs.
Binge Watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Storytellers and Story Sellers, where we talk the business of entertainment. On today's episode, we talk to two women who are finding their own voices as a creator and making millions laugh, cry, and enjoy along with them. Say hello to the funniest Sumukhi Suresh.
Thank you so much. I like when I'm introduced in superlatives.
Yeah.
Not funnier. Most funny.
Okay,
funniest.
This is Sumukhi Suresh, who is now funnier than yesterday.
I'm very scared.
New.
They're like, there's Sumukhi Suresh who is now no longer funny. Oh no!
Bhaiya kal aana.
Kal ho jayega kuch. Correct.
Also in the studio is Nisha Vasudevan, Executive Creative Director at Supari Studios.
Yes, hi, it's me.
What a glamorous name, Nisha.
It's a glamorous name. Yeah.
Executive Creative Director.
Yes.
Massive.
It's the kind of it's the kind of woman I'm like,
Just
ma'am.
a word.
No, it's lovely. It's lovely. I love designations. They add a lot of weight.
Except stuff like Chief Fun Officer and all.
Chief
Those
Fun
are like,
Officer?
Yeah.
That's what I aspire to be.
Yeah.
Chief
People are, they're like, hi, I'm the Chief Fun Officer of my startup. And you're like, are you?
Is he the only person in the startup? Because I'm the Chief Fun Officer. Why? Because I'm dying. The startup is going to end.
There's no more money. No runway, nothing. I don't know how salaries will come. Let's have fun. Right. Great to have you guys on the show. Full disclosure, I know both Sumukhi and Nisha for years now. They know each other as well. So brace yourselves.
This is just a hangout now.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just a hangout.
You think it's a podcast. We're just going to be like, to fir lunch bhi gaya.
That could be an interesting question. Yeah, because we are recording this as opposed to all of our other episodes during the day. I have never seen our producer Darius in daylight. So yeah, now I know he's not a vampire. But yeah, great to have you on the show, guys. Thank you for making time. What I wanted to talk to you about, like I mentioned earlier, is both of you have, very distinct, recognizable voices, recognizable output, and that has always been a little different from the mainstream, right? When I was growing up, it was important to me that we found Indian creators and entertainers with a different voice from the mainstream, simply because there is an audience that cares about what is not bargain basement funniness or content in quotes, right? So good to have you here. I'm gonna jump right into this with Nisha.
Thank God. Thank God.
I was hoping to jump right into it with Sumukhi.
No, I'm going to jump right into it with Nisha because
Cool.
I want to start talking about this from the first thing that Nisha put out and that I have had the pleasure to watch is this animal rights and animal cruelty documentary called People Is Sometimes Kind.
Yes.
Is it still on YouTube?
It's on my Vimeo page. It's nowhere else, and nobody should look for it and ever watch it.
No, please, guys, do look for it. Do watch it.
No.
Let me tell you a little bit about People Is Sometimes Kind, and then I'll throw it over to Nisha. But People Is Sometimes Kind is a grad school documentary.
Yeah,
that
I was
Nisha
just
made.
finishing my master's, and it was the final film that we had to make that year and give it to them.
Right.
And I was in the UK then, and I wanted to, like any film school student, I was like, my film is going to change the landscape of like everything. Bad things will stop happening to animals the moment they see this film. So I came here with one camera and I was like, let's do this. And I reached out to a few friends like Nama, your wife, and we went all around the country and we like really busted everyone's ass, and nothing changed. Yeah,
Animals are still ass. That's
have
crazy.
To see the film. It's the most like sweet way of busting someone's ass ever.
Excuse me,
like,
you can't do this.
Yeah, please don't be mean to the birds.
Nisha impression is my favorite time, You know that I keep doing this in my writer's room. It's like, you guys can't just take things for granted. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, I won't do it. Because she has just like the sweetest
She is
way.
the nicest. She really is. Yeah.
It hurts me to hurt her.
Okay, jokes apart though,
Okay.
it comes through that Nisha is the nicest in that documentary, and yes, my wife had a role to play there as well. What really came through there is a passion for storytelling that was not happening otherwise, right? You could have easily been just two kids who care a lot about animals, walked up to people and tried to make a difference, but there was an entire sort of citizen journalist / documentary aspect to it. Cut to what you're doing today is like I mentioned a little while earlier, being like the Anthony Bourdain of
That's a really
hip-hop culture.
That is good. That is, come on.
Just exploring it in a way that pretty much nobody else is doing it, right? And the latest work that's come out is breaking in India with Red Bull. So it's kind of the reason why I have you here is to talk about how so early you kind of knew where your interests and passions really lie. And I know you've done other work and you've done shows, etc. But finding a documentary filmmaker in this day and age, especially for the web, how did that come about for you?
Honestly, I was it's a very long and weird story. When I was a kid, because I really liked animals, I wanted to make wildlife documentaries. That's all I wanted to do. As I went along after college, I was like, I want to make documentaries, so I'll go and study it. I proceeded to study documentaries, make People Sometimes Kind, come back to India and then be like, okay, there's no scope for documentary filmmaking here. At that point, I also joined OML for a little bit of time.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
And over there we were doing NH7 TV, which is where we were doing a lot of like non-fiction type of comedy. From there I came forward, and then we did Breaking in India this year. That's how it came. So that's about it. That's
But that's just kind of a great story of sticking to what you're trying to do with non-fiction formats and eventually great things starting to happen.
Yeah. It comes from like being interested in counterculture and being interested in alternative culture and being interested in telling stories in a different way than is the norm.
Sure.
I've always been really interested in seeing how we can structure a film using mixed media or using voiceover or using whatever in a way that's unexpected. And I think that comes a little naturally. So it's not like I'm trying to say it differently, it just happens. And in the start, I was always told by people that it's really nice, but it's not mainstream enough, or it's not, I don't think people here are going to get the style that you're going for.
Ye kaun dekhega?
Ye kaun dekhega, maasi nahi hai, ye wo. And it would really, it affects you. And I'm like, okay, how do I make my work more maasi? And I would really try. I'd be like, okay, let's do this. But I think somewhere at the back of my head, that didn't come naturally to me. So it wasn't easy to make something massy. It was easy to make something in this stylistic way that I wanted to.
Right.
So I just stuck with it, and it's nice to see that there's an audience for that kind of thing now.
That's amazing.
There wasn't 5 years ago maybe.
Right.
So
Now, what's also interesting, and that's where I want to draw a bit of a contrast with Sumukhi, is that you recognize what you wanted to do very early, and then you invested time and effort in learning what goes behind it, right? As opposed to Sumukhi. And again, another full disclosure, Sumukhi and I went to school together.
Yes.
We were
oh my God, we have been
school overall in charge together.
Oh my God, I forgot
I'm
that.
just bringing up traumatic.
you guys were like leaders in school?
Yeah,
I had
Guys.
nothing. I had nothing going on for me. Can I tell you, Vineet
you
did
were
most of the job. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I wasn't even promoted the next year.
Were you like head boy and head girl?
No. We were almost head boy, almost
Almost
head
head
girl.
boy.
He made head boy. And they were like, babe, not you. tu ja, tu nikal, because I literally didn't do anything. It was not because they were unfair to me. I was unfair to them. Where I was like, guys, I'm done. I have no personality. Can I from me? So yeah.
So yeah, I mean, not to bring up traumatic memories.
Because I personally do not want to remember Vineet from school, and I actually never have.
And we'll forget we went to school at all.
I almost always forget, and I'm not doing it like janbujke. Naturally, I forget. I say, "Go Vineet," and then someone says school. I'm like, "Oh my god, he was in the same school. Oh, he saw me in places where I shouldn't have been." Can I tell you why? It's also because in school I was the girl. I'll tell you what I was. You know when you see a bunch of hot girls, and then you see their best friends, and then you see the entourage behind the best friend's friend. That was me. Okay, I was literally like, I was the kid you should bully. You know, you fucking get bullied and you get a spine. Come on, little bit you should.
No. All of that is, I mean, just her experience. Sumukhi was really one of the fun people in class.
Which literally we need two people knew, you knew, and one dirt. Because, can I tell you, in school I used to speak to him because he used to come speak to me. He's like, how are you? I'm like, why are you talking to me? And he was in another section. So I'm like, why is this boy talking to me? I'm like, oh, he actually talks nicely. And then really, I'm not joking, guys. But he also doesn't know, because he was very like, what is this? Okay, she's fun. She talks. What's the problem? Just relax, everybody.
I've seen your school photos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's not there.
Sumukhi was in her dance outfit and stuff. He looked so cute. Did you guys ever do like stage shows and all together?
We did, I think.
Yeah.
We did, no.
Maybe not together, because you're another house, I think.
Yeah, he was in Jasmine, I was in Lily. I know.
Oh, guys.
Yeah. Okay. This is not a
sorry, this is not
podcast
school
bringing it back.
nostalgia. My apologies.
So, but that's a great setup for what I wanted to bring.
I was in St. Luke. I was just putting it out there.
Nisha's just like, in case we're talking about houses.
Just so you know. What color was that?
Yellow.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
you had red, I had green, you're yellow.
Okay,
Fine.
cool. What house are you in?
Oh, yellow. Guys, we're just talking to nothing.
Yeah, it's just like we're referring to the ether.
We just wanted to get
Yeah, sorry.
Cool. So, but that gives me a great setup for what I want to ask you, because you didn't plan it like this, right? Last I remember was you were a sous chef or full chef.
No, I was a
lot of things.
Yeah, it's an absolute contrast from Nisha. And from the beginning of my life, I never knew I had to find a voice. In fact, I'm like, let's just be invisible. It really works. Okay. And school pretty much was that. But unfortunately, you're a big kid and it just happens. And that happened. And honestly, I never saw myself going on stage or talking or... I mean, there were once in a while in school, because I used to sing. So my mom used to really push that agenda, because you're a South Indian kid, you gotta learn how to sing. Right. And that agenda was pushed. And I also sound very like hoarse. I sound like a proper classical song person, no? And up north, everyone wants a Lata Mangeshkar, which is the exact. I sound like Lata Mangeshkar's throat gone wrong. So I'm just like, what's gonna happen? So that was my pretty much school journey. And I was like, no, I'm never gonna talk on stage. And I remember clearly my brother, I did home science, okay, for 1 year, guys, in Nagpur, because my mom tricked me saying that's food science. But my mom actually just wanted me to be a better housewife. Wow. I don't know why, because she anyway raised me to be a wife. I don't know why she wanted me a degree for it. I mean, to be fair, yeah.
Qualified.
Yeah, because home science honestly teaches you how to manage a house, which is good. But it's just that I don't think that's my interest. And within that 1 year, my brother was like, I think she should start talking. Because my brother's just like, I don't think she talks. Because I went further inside my shell and I was like, no, I can't talk. And my brother's like, you should go on stage and talk. And first time, I'm not joking, I was shivering. My mic was shivering. I was shivering. I looked like ridiculous. You know what? I'll tell you what I look like. I look like a wall painting which you want to throw away. That's how I looked on that day on stage. And I remember this very clearly, because I'm like, why did I go through this? But it's very good. I'm glad I did. Because I'm like, it can't get worse than this.
It will build character for you.
I'm like, what is going to be worse than this? Nothing. So just move forward. And I did a little bit debating. And when I went to Chennai, my only agenda was that I wanted to be popular. Because I have never been popular. But apparently there are two ways of becoming popular. One is the nerdy way and the other is the non-nerdy way. I went the nerdy way. I participated in everything. I'm like, dance done. Literally done. Everything done.
You did extempore debate club?
Yeah, go for it. Whatever it is, I was like, whatever puts me on the map. And you're like, isn't she a cool girl? And I wanted to be that. Which is pretty much what I wanted.
And this was in 2000...
This is in 2006, 2007. Okay. That. And... Again, I never had an agenda for like entertainment or taking this forward, because I wanted to do food science. So then I was a librarian, because
That is the coolest job you can have.
Listen, guys, a full disclosure. The reason I took that job is because I moved cities for a boy and I needed a job to go see him. I mean, because, you need money. Anyway, watch Pushpavalli season 1 for that.
Exactly.
It's a great plug-in. And also, I was a biggest scam because I read books, but I'm not like a reader. I'm not the person you come and be like, what is Ruskin Bond thinking?
You're clearly not a reader. Ruskin Bond is a writer.
Yeah, this woman came to me, she's like, what are your thoughts about Enid Blyton? I'm like, what's his surname spelling? Is it BLI or Y? I don't know. But I was very like, I will program stuff for kids. During weekends, and that was my area.
Right.
I'm like, I'll keep them engaged. Then I
go watch Pushpavalli.
And then I worked at a hotel, because the thing with hotels is that if you, although everyone, unfortunately, in Indian media shows has hotels where everyone's clothes are clean and they're all having time for romance. No, nobody in the hotel kitchen has time for romance. It's hardcore. You have to cook 17 hours a day. You hate food by the end of it.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it is. So that's where was that, and then I worked at a food lab. Because I wanted to do food safety.
Right.
And I was really passionate about food safety. Can I just say that?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I wanted to say. I don't want to say more than that, because then that's another podcast altogether. And then, I don't know, somewhere in the middle, heartbreak happened, and I don't drink and smoke, and I don't know how to while away my evenings, and I don't know how to party. I was like, I don't need to do something. And I briefly did theatre in Chennai. So I did in Bangalore, I started theatre, which turned out to be comedy.
Right.
So then I was like, okay, I'll do it, I guess. And then I started doing all of that. Then I quit my job because it was just getting too much. And then I cried when I quit my job. And unlike your previous podcast people who had to face the whole thing of, oh my God, how is my parents going to handle me quitting a job? My mom didn't know I quit my job.
Oh, wow.
I never told her anything. Do you know? He got it. Do you know that my mom once came to OML? And because she was just there, because my mom has the habit of coming to all the offices that I work at.
Oh, how lovely.
That's sweet.
Yeah, good. But my mom came to OMH, she's like, is this how where you work? I'm like, yeah, this is where I do food safety training.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, that's Ajay, he's my boss. And Ajay, the thing is with Ajay won't talk to you.
Right.
So it's a good thing. So if my mom goes and talks to me, he'll be like, what is it? And he'll walk off. And at that time, I was really nervous because my mom's going to figure out Akash was there.
Right.
And I met Akash after like some 35,000 years.
Wow.
And I looked at Akash, I'm like, can you please handle my mom? Because he's from school, he's from Nagpur, he understands my situation. He's like, done. I'll talk to your mom.
That's Akash Motiani from Bring Back Good Films.
Hi Akash, remember we were in college together.
Yeah.
Sorry, come join the reunion.
Yeah. So honestly, I had no plan to, because this is literally just happened. And as I figured, I was like, okay, and honestly, I also come across as someone who's very bubbly.
Right.
So I could come across very, characters, hair products, I can be that, but I'm exactly not that. I don't know why. Because when I wrote my first bit, which I wrote for myself, was Bheti. As I was writing on me, I'm like, Sumukhi, why these thoughts? What is going on in your mind? You hate yourself.
Shit.
And as it's going, then Pushpavalli came and I'm just, that woman is treated so badly in the show and I'm laughing. I'm like, yeah, throw her. Break her leg, and everyone's like, do you not like yourself?
I'm just cutting in there though. So, lots of stuff, then quitting job, then comedy, right? Heartbreak, free time, comedy, fantastic. Right? And this is around the time that comedy was really picking up in a big way. I think you started in Bangalore, if I'm not mistaken.
2013, I think.
Right, and Bangalore, it's sort of thriving open mic scene.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like that then. It seems
Bangalore's very like the people who are very like art.
Correct.
हम पैसे नहीं बनाते art.
Correct.
बॉम्बे पैसे बनाते हैं. It's very that.
हमारे पास है आर्ट और
और
लेक्स
पैसा नहीं है.
जिसमें फोम निकल रहा है.
Exactly. पर art जरूर है हमारे पास.
और बहुत सारा ट्रैफिक.
It's true.
So, what I want to really get at with this is, okay, it must have been easy to fall into that trap of, hey, this is comedy is happening, Instagram is happening, let's do filters, let's do characters, and that's what was in vogue at that time, is still in vogue for certain creators at this time, and taking nothing away from them.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of creators who do that. You chose to do it entirely differently, right? I think there was the sketch comedy that you did with Naveen,
Go Straight, Take Left.
Go Straight, Take Left. Then, of course, there was Bheti, which is one of my personal favorites, and Pushpavalli. I totally love that show, right? Very different texture of comedy that came through, right? Was it a conscious effort to move towards something that would be intelligent is a big word. I'll just say darker than the stuff that's out there. Also, consequently different than the stuff that's out there. Or was it just a free flow? Ki yaar, this is who I am. Yahi mujhse ban raha hai, and this is what I want to do. How did that come about? I mean.
For me, no, I figured out that, okay, this is my voice when I wrote Behti. I honestly didn't know when I was writing Behti, and as the sketches came about, I was like, I'm very surprised that this is the tone I'm going with. I would have never expected, with my own personality, I would have never expected to be like, because I was very clear, I wanted black and white. I said, I want that girl to not look good. I don't like good looking people. It's just tiring. Especially kids are just nice. I want to slap nice kids. They're all, because you know they're lying. My niece is 3.5 and she's a asshole, dude. Come on, you know it. I'm like, that girl knows she's hot. She's very like, I'm like, fucking slap you, silly. So, which was my prep. And I was also like, why am I going for this? Because I have a classic personality of bubbly and all of that. So I know there I was trying to figure, is it my voice or not? But honestly, there was a clear indication which I remember telling myself is that I can either go the way. And I know it sounds very convenient, but I can either go the way where I do characters or do things that people like, and I will get my numbers. And I will go the way which will be, I think, long lasting, because content and things that you want to make which is true to your voice will not get you immediate numbers. And I'm facing that. Right. I may not, I don't have the numbers of my peers, but I still like this space because I'm making shows or making something. Hopefully 5 years later, you're like, oh, that sounds very like her. I hopefully will not be forgotten.
Right.
Like it'll be a little difficult for you to forget me. But it comes with a price, because I have my days where I'm like, I wish I had the numbers.
Right.
Because who doesn't want the numbers, right?
Absolutely.
Who doesn't? And I can easily do it. I can do those characters. Again, not taking away, because that is a different ball game altogether.
Totally.
Because it's everyday content churning out. It's a different space altogether. And I think I can do it, but maybe I couldn't have. It's because I know it's a lot of hard work and hustle, just similar to this. It's just I chose this because I feel like I will be remembered, and I want to leave that rather than she had these many followers.
Right.
But again, I don't know if it's convenient for me to just say it because I don't have numbers.
No, it's not. It's not. Actually, that's a thing that passes my mind really often, because first of all, I don't think anyone really starts off saying, I want to develop a unique voice. You just start being told after a point that, hey, you have a voice and it's different, and it's really nice to hear that. But you also start thinking, I don't know if this has happened to you, but am I making the same kind of stuff again and again? Like, is it not versatile?
Yeah.
Like my peers, do they have more versatility in their portfolio? And then you start to worry about, okay, so is what I'm making always just going to be on the fringe of content, and it's going to have like 10 viewers who are like critically viewing it, and then no one else is seeing it. But I think you're right. I think there's longevity in having a voice. Or like she said, maybe we're just finding a silver lining.
Maybe we're just trying to be nice. We're like, हमारे पास numbers भी है, पर आप याद तो रखोगे हमें. I don't know.
Exactly.
I think, you guys are trying to sell yourself humbly here, and so let me step in and do it right. No, I'm joking. No, I'm joking. I think you guys both hit it on the head, right? It is a trade-off at the end of the day. On the first episode of this show, Saurabh Khanna, the right guy who wrote Ye Meri Family, we were talking about critical acclaim versus sort of commercial public acclaim, etc. And he said something very that stuck with me, right? Which is, decide who you're making this for.
Yeah.
Right? The spectrum is, I'm making this for myself versus I'm making this for the biggest audience possible. Yeah. If you're making it for yourself, don't expect audiences to watch it. If you're making it for the audiences, don't expect to be super creatively fulfilled.
Yeah.
You might end up being a commercial success. Yeah. And then there is the spectrum in the middle where you sort of find your sweet spot, so to speak, right? You have your loyalists and you have your fans, and then they become vehicles for what you're doing, right? The classic case, the parallel that I draw, especially when it comes to entertainment, and I hate the word content. The entertainment is bands, right? And the great thing about bands is the same genre will have several bands who do things differently. Right? Two bands that sound the same, and you're just like, hey, I'll just listen to the other band. Yeah. Right? But then there are bands that do things differently, and their first album is slightly different, and then their second album is a little more different, and the third album is something else only. Right? And then their fans are like, hey, ye kya hai? Right? And that, I think, is a more interesting challenge to put put to yourself, again, I'm kind of surmising here, is that's an interesting challenge to put to yourself, trying to reinvent what you're doing time after time, as opposed to get into a trap of, okay, now I've found my voice and I'm going to build my critical mass. I mean, so
when is it, there's a really fine line between saying this is my voice and this is my comfort zone. So how do you keep having your voice in different versatile spaces, which actually I think is something Sumukhi has done really well. Like, you have a range of things that you do, but a consistent voice across all of it.
Which is, again, it's what's really surprising me is which is why I think it's fascinating is I don't know why this voice is there. I'm still figuring out, I'm like, why am I talking like this, or why is this my expression?
Right.
Like, why is it that I did a Betty, or why did I do a Pushpavalli? Because even to myself, I'm like, Sumukhi, your growth was not this. You know what I mean? Like, I could have easily been the girl I could have easily been Sweetie from Kal Ho Na Ho.
Right.
Easily.
Yeah.
Because I could be that girl with the classic weight problems, which I do. But I'm like, but why this expression? And I think which is also what is making me make content now, where every time I do a project, I'm like, but why did you choose this voice? Why did you choose this tone? I know it sounds very it's very indulgent, self-indulgent. I know, but I feel like the difference in my personality and the voice that I'm bringing is interesting. Like, I would watch a person who has that personality, and suddenly I'm like, why? But this girl doesn't seem like she could make a Betty.
Right.
Which is an interesting conflict for me, and this is from a selling point of view.
Right.
If I was an audience, or if I was a network watching myself, I would be immediately interested or intrigued by what's this conflict and want to know more about it.
Absolutely.
So hopefully that's what I'm building, but I don't know.
No, and interesting that you bring up selling there, because there's stuff that you can sell because anybody can sell it, right? I mean, TV show, music album by a mainstream artist, and then there's stuff like Betty Naak to sell, or then there's stuff like breaking to sell, right? And again, when you have someone like a Red Bull who's invested in this space, it's still an easier sell. But often there's massive resistance to trying new stuff. There's massive resistance to giving a platform to a voice that is not the conventional voice, right? For example, what I loved about Pushpavalli was hers looking at the problem from every angle possible. And there's no glorifying, there's no bashing, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And that feels very different, far removed from what's been put up otherwise, right? So what is the process of trying to sell this? Do you guys have trusted sellers that you kind of collaborate with?
You go, Nisha.
Or is it an endeavor in your own
I think it's really honestly about just going out there and repeating the same thing to 500 people before half a person shows interest, and then you're like, okay, I'll latch onto you now and meet you again, and keep reinforcing what you're saying. And I think it's always easier to sell your idea yourself than to have someone else, because then your passion for it comes through. Even though it sounds like a cheesy thing to say, it's really just that no one is going to talk about your idea as well as you will.
Sure.
Yeah. So I like going out there and just being like, hi, do you want to make this film about XYZ? And then they'll be like, no. And I'll be like, please.
It's like comedy.
Yeah.
No.
Please.
No.
Fine. Please.
Mixed media.
Please. Yeah.
come on, let me do it. So, and now that you're at Supari, and I know Nisha used to run this production company called Whimnasium they had the cutest website. But now that you're at a slightly more established place like Supari, has it gotten easier?
It has gotten easier because you have the backing of a lot of other people who think the same way as you and who are interested in the same way as you, and it just opens a lot more doors, right? You're able to go in and meet a lot more people who might not have given you the time of day earlier, because you're like, hey, I'm coming from a place where I can assure you a certain production quality, and I can assure you a certain execution capability and all of that. So that is cool. But apart from that, I think for anyone, for a long time I worked alone. I was always freelancing, or I was doing Whimnasium, and that's when the struggle was a lot more, because I was like, I want to make this thing that's slightly different, and I'm going to people and saying, let's do it this way. And I've lost a lot of jobs because of that, because they've been like, the call was always, hey, we loved your idea, we loved your treatment note, really cool, really international, or words like that, but I don't think it's going to work here. I don't think it's going to work in Bombay. I don't think it's going to work in India. Then I'd be like, okay, thanks. I'd always call and ask for feedback and be like, why did this not work out? And then that's the sense I started getting. That
And what's the most
yeah.
ridiculous feedback you got?
It's really fun and it's really clever, but it's not going to work here because it's not massy enough. I'll be like, but how do I make this massy? They wouldn't have an answer. I guess that was my job.
Dude, they only made masses
yeah,
dumb.
yeah, yeah.
We're like, नहीं सीखेंगे नहीं वो लोग. This is so sad.
Yeah.
I mean, India में तो scene ऐसा है कि वही है ना आप.
But I think what that does also is it really underestimates the audience.
Exactly.
Just because you have a different idea, it's thought of as, oh, this is really cerebral, but it's not. It's just different.
Yeah.
Like, people are watching stuff. The same person that you think, oh, is sitting in a small city, they won't be watching it. That person has Netflix and is watching House of Cards, man.
Correct.
So really,
Or Narcos for that
yeah,
matter.
Yeah, dude, it's absolutely true.
Yeah. So why are you trying to make something catered to them? You're just underestimating them, or just not really giving any credit to someone for having a different kind of taste or being refreshed by seeing something new.
Right.
But what I was getting at is just having finding someone who thinks the same way as you, has the same sensibility, has the same aesthetic, really just makes it easier to go out and make stuff together. So that struggle of doing it alone, it's like 2 people, 3 people, 4 people are saying, hey, let's do this differently, and that just gives you the backing to actually convince someone to do it differently.
Right. No, I think I completely agree to what you guys were saying about how mainstream India tends to dumb it down to a level where it's not show don't tell or show or tell, it's show and tell.
Yeah.
Right, where मतलब अगर रास्ते पे कोई साइकिल से जा रहा है तो वॉइस ओवर बोलेगा ये देखिए रास्ते पे साइकिल से आदमी जा रहा है. Right? So,
Exactly that.
which makes me feel like, yeah, I mean,
साइकिल जा रहा है.
हाँ, तो दिख रहा है ऑडियंस को यार. I mean, you can see this. I paid money to come and see a
Just so you
cycle
know,
go.
it's a cycle.
It's a cycle, right? Correct. It has wheels. Right. But Sumukhi, how does it work for you then? I mean, comedy is, and the way we understand comedy in the digital sense, is not that old, right?
Yeah.
Is that an advantage? There are more people willing to put their money in their mouths behind an experiment, behind something that's unconventional, or is it the same rules apply and a lot more struggle?
I mean, I know you've sold comedy, you've marketed comedy, and see, it's how do I put this? I know before I entered comedy that I actually was in a sales job, so I got selling, but having said that, I have no clue about entertainment industry. When I entered, I had no clue what the rules are. I didn't know how to sell. All I knew is I could work hard. That's literally the only thing I had going on for me.
Yeah.
Is that it's a new skill, and if I can, I will teach myself the skill, and I will make sure I will. And the other thing that I don't like unfinishing things, I'll make sure I'll finish it. These are the only skills I came with.
That's more than most people come with.
But I didn't know, because I know that, and I had no picture in terms of OML. Like, OML signed me, and I had no clue about their background, nothing. But all I knew is that there was, for I think the 2 or 3 people out of the entire list of people I have worked with who backed my hard work and hustle rather than backing an idea. And I think that's a very interesting approach. I saw, like, Ajay, for me, didn't back my idea, he backed me.
Right. So was OML your first management?
Yeah, OML was my first management. And OML, I also pursued them.
Right.
I was very like, I want these people to sign me, because I want to be noticed there. And for me, one of the biggest reasons why Pushpavalli sold is because of Ajay. Because he went out and he was like, this voice is interesting, you should hear this. He never backed the show, he backed me, which makes it, again, it's a longer deal.
Right.
Because if he backs me, then if in case I finish the show and I come again with another idea, they're like, here, you backed her, do you want to back her again? Which was 1. And 2, it really helped, because I was very clear to the people who sold, especially people who sell, you must get them to tell you the truth.
Right.
If they're going to come and sugarcoat shit, you are never going to make good things.
And you should also have the strength to listen to it and take it as feedback or something.
And sometimes the feedback might work, sometimes it might not. But always listen to the people who sell.
Right.
Because there'll be 10,000 things they'll say, but there will be that one thing which completely makes sense. Like, I remember Pushpavalli's first draft was so shit. Oh my god, guys, it was the worst script in the world. Now, as someone who has written scripts, I'm like, if someone would, I wouldn't have even thrown up. I would have been like, iska bhel banao aur niklo, kyunki ye nahi chalne wala hai. And I remember that reading had happened. It was a very traumatic read, and I didn't know how scripting worked. And I remember Ajay came, because at that time Pushpavalli was not about the character, it was about the PG she lived in.
Right.
Because the writers I worked with at that time were like, no, this girl is not interesting, but the PG is interesting, so let's push that. And I remember Ajay coming clearly and telling me, he's like, why are you making the show about everything apart from the thing I want to see? And this is a guy who sells.
Right.
This is not a guy who writes.
Right.
Who clearly came and told me, he's like, I want to see you. 1, 2, he's like, be selfish. This is your show. 70% of the show should be you. He's like, तेको एक मौका मिल रहा है to make sure that everybody sees you. Why are you giving it to some other people? He's like, if you can contain it, you should be selfish and contain it. This is an advice only a salesperson can give, and a salesperson who's honest with you.
Yeah.
So
that's great advice.
In the only thing I know, I'm not saying that all salespeople are right all the time, but in the 10,000 things message, there's that one thing which they will say, which will help you take it forward.
Right.
Like now, if you tell me saying that Sumukhi, we need a Masi show, I am by the way writing a Masi show. I'm writing a full out and out Hindi show. Because I'm like, तुमको क्या चाहिए? हिंदी चाहिए ले लो.
Fantastic.
क्या ही चाहिए? हिंदी चाहिए ना. But now it's my job to make sure that within that, as she correctly said, to hopefully not dumb down the audience. So here I am. I'm being very smart to be like networks going Hindi. So much Hindi, juicy Hindi, and then smartly just make the characters like more people who are real, people who masses will appreciate. I mean, let's not forget we had Doordarshan where Dekh Bhai Dekh was there.
Exactly.
Samvad Se Zaban,
Exactly.
Abhiman was there. I mean, these are shows. Shanti was there. So it's not like people are dumb. It's just they're like, बार-बार तुम serially दे रहे हो, मैं वही देखूंगा या देखूंगी. So why
Exactly.
the fuck not?
If you put something out, at least this is something I'm just seeing recently, like making these films about like these documentaries on small hip hop scenes. Of course, like the views they get are far less than a Pushpavalli or whatever, but is far more than I anticipated. I was like, I didn't know that people would be interested. It's so validating.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, you watched this? I mean, when we went last night, we won an award for the show we made.
Congratulations.
And I was just so surprised to be in that room with so many people who are making all of this like content on Netflix and Amazon Prime, and there we were in our like little show. We went on stage like, you know, school kids going to the principal's office to get our certificates. We were like, thank you very much, very politely, and we left. Now it was surreal because we were like, you know what, we didn't make a Made in Heaven, but we're competing in the same category as them. We made a documentary series about like these little pockets all over the country where kids are making hip hop. That's it. It's that simple. It's about like tapping into that like counterculture scene that's there. And we're like, no one's ever going to watch it except scene kids.
We're completely,
like, holy shit, people watched it and we're here right now. It's like...
I fully relate to that, by the way. The thought of... I never expected Pushpavalli to be watched by anyone. Because first of all, she's talking.
Right.
And then I remember Amazon very being like, we wanted a show from a woman and you give us a stalker. They're like, now we were planning to be like first female show person.
Yeah.
Oh, they wanted it to be 4MSP.
No, they wanted to do the whole, finally we have female creator.
Oh,
okay.
right,
And
okay.
I don't blame them. It's the marketing department. It's like, why? Because they were going through the whole like, because I never agreed to the special because I didn't have a special. So then the whole 10 boys special happened. And everyone called me and they were like, oh my god, but why didn't you get a special? I'm like, I don't have a special. Why? Is it because you're not special? I'm like, buddy, it's a 1 hour. It's not my personality. It's not like, are you a special person? No, fucker. It's my 1 hour. The media was not paying attention to that. And then they were like, please. And then you're doing one show and you're putting yourself as an anti-hero. And I get their fear. And I remember because I was like, nobody's going to watch this. You know what surprises me on a daily basis is, okay, younger women associate with it, fine. Boys secretly will message. They will never publicly come and agree to liking Pushpavalli because they're very like, ladki ka show hai, hum nahi karenge.
I love Pushpavalli.
Thank you so much, Vineet. There are these nice, beautiful 55-year-old mummies who come to me and be like, what a show. I completely related to Pushpavalli.
My mom really liked it.
What are these aunties doing? I'm like, auntie, what were you doing when you were 21? And then leave. I'm like, oh, auntie was a scam.
but that's a truth you found that maybe a lot of other creators didn't even think about.
I didn't even anticipate this. I mean, this, if I ever go and say that, you know, I saw this and that's why I made, no, I had no clue. I was like, oh, auntie, you're watching Pushpavalli really? It's a very good show. I mean, poor thing that, and constantly, you know, it's amazing how they're all empathizing with the stalker and they're all like, wo ladke ne bada bura kiya. Haramzada hai wo ladka. I'm like, oh my god, she's the stalker. Don't have empathy for the bad person.
And that's what I love. I mean, to link it back to what Nisha was saying about hip-hop is you don't know that these stories have audiences, right? I mean, I've done my fair share of content selling, and one of the things that we say is, dude, if you make an honest piece of work, right? And again, I mean, it's a loaded term, honest piece of work, whatever. But I mean, there is no better way to put it, right? If hard work goes into it, if smart work goes into it, and if a bit of honesty goes into storytelling, it does find an audience, right? The hip hop community growing, getting represented. Sure, Gully Boy as well. Gully Boy doing its own thing.
That definitely opened up a lot of doors.
Yeah,
to this,
absolutely. And Pushpavalli, I mean, we've seen stalkers in India. You never empathize with the stalker, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you go back to the classic Shah Rukh Khan and Dar, right?
Yeah.
And you always know that, hey, this is the bad guy, right? Sunny Deol, for whatever he is worth, is a good guy, right? And
Juhi Chawla cannot take a decision for herself.
correct,
Cool, got it.
because obviously that's what it because that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
She can't just be like, hey, bro, f off, I'm married.
Yeah,
and
she's
stuff.
like, what to do?
Correct. And then there's this whole fresh perspective, and it relates with people who you didn't even write it for. Right?
Yeah.
Like you wrote it for someone else.
I don't even know who I wrote it for. I'm like, auntie, what is it? But which also, comes, boils down to, it's something which you said, how you're like, honest piece of work. And, these heavy loaded terms, I think we should start using them. Because what gets the attention of everyone when you're comfortable in saying it's a massy show.
Right.
But if you say that, no, Sumukhi, the show was, I don't know, I know it's a lot, but it's an honest work. I think it should be the other way around. People should take a pause and use the word massy very carefully.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you start using the words, it's an honest piece of work or it's hard work, all of this need to be, I hate to say it, glamorized.
Sure.
Like these should be the norms because that's the only way forward. Otherwise, we will keep making things again. And I'm not saying Masi is wrong. I would love to do a Masi show.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just that there is another genre which is picking up, or there is another genre which honestly makes sales sense. But it's a longer sales sense.
Right.
ये अब एक साल में तुमको पैसे return नहीं आएंगे. It's very like it's the FD that gives you return after 5 years.
Right.
And you need that also in your investment plan. It can't just be your immediate return wala thing.
Absolutely.
As much as both need to exist.
So what I'm hearing before we run into this break is stick with it. First up, stick with what you're doing, and days will come when stuff opens up for you if you find the right people to work with, if you find honest people who will give you the right kind of feedback. There is this whole concept of developing a show. Not a lot of salespeople do it, but we'll come back and talk about what role that has to play as well. What I'm also hearing is that you can't aspire to be massy because that's not aspirational. You can aspire to be someone who's watched by a lot of people, but often that comes from working at it and discovering your voice over time, and also upskilling and training yourself and figuring out what to do. Great first half of this conversation. We're going to jump into a quick break. Back with Nisha and Sumukhi right after these messages.
Hey everybody, welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you are not following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors for the week, Storytel and Intel. Sponsors make this stuff possible. Please shout out to them. Let them know that you appreciate them paying us money. Also wanted to remind you all that we have an audience survey going. The audience survey is only going to be up for another couple of weeks. And I'm frankly disappointed. Even though 3 times the number of you people are listening to us as the last audio survey, only half of you have filled it out. So yeah, come on, please get to it. ivmpodcast.com/survey. We want your opinion to matter when we decide what we're going to do in the future. And I'm sure you want yours to matter too. So please do fill out the survey. A quick note, one of our favorite shows, States of Anarchy, hosted by the awesome Hamsini Hariharan. This show is going to move to a fortnightly schedule starting 21st January 2020. Keep listening to it. It's a great show on global affairs, foreign policy, and more. On Cyrus Says this week, Cyrus talks to YouTuber, actor, and comedian Sahil Kathar. Sahil talks about the discoverability of artists through YouTube, playing Syed Kirmani in the upcoming film 83, and watching Cyrus on TV while growing up. On Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav talks about Vincent van Gogh and how the color blue is extremely significant to the people of Uzbekistan. On Paperback, Rachita and Satyajit talk with the duo Aditi Guha and Sandeep Ramesh about their love for storytelling and their different evolved tastes for books like Eat, Pray, Love on one hand and Sapiens on the other. On Litnama, Lakshmi is joined by author Jane Borges, who talks about her novel Bombay Balchao and stories of Mumbai as they weave through her life. The Simplified Gang is back with the last part to their 2019 recap. Join Chuck, Narayan and Tony as they talk about Amazon, Brexit and Gully Boy. On KBCD, Sunetra and Farah talk about their identities within the queer community of their respective cities and how it has evolved as they moved from one city to another. On IVM Likes, Abbas, Ritika, Alika and Antaresh talk about their pop culture resolutions for this year in 2020. On What a Player, Mikhail went for the India-Australia match at Wankhede Stadium. On Tuesday, have a listen to Siddharth and Mikhail talking about the experience. On Pulyabazi, Pranay and Saurabh discuss the future of electric vehicles in India with Rahul Raj, co-founder of Inverted, an energy storage company. On our Kannada podcast Thale Harate, Sudha Narayan and Dr. Lohit HD join Ganesh Chakravarti to talk about the many lakh canine residents of Bengaluru. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
Ladies and gentlemen, back on Storytellers and Storysellers with Sumukhi Suresh and Nisha Vasudevan. We've been talking about finding your own voice as a creator, and it's led to some great insights from both Nisha and Sumukhi. Sumukhi, I want to throw this out to you, right? It's great to have projects that you feel passionately about. Great to have projects that you have a sort of view on how it... great to have projects that you can visualize how they'll turn out at the end. You have your own distinct voice coming through. But then there are projects that don't really have that much of you in terms of your voice in them, but you as the artist, or you as the face on camera, or you as someone who can deliver this is working on it, right? Sometimes it's not a passion project. How do you deal with that then?
It's very early I realized that you can't, which is where I come to the fact that something which is in quote massy, there is a reason why it works, and there is a reason why it comes with a certain cost, comes with certain amount. So very early I was like, you cannot be, as much as I respect the voice that I bring in, I also respect what Masi is doing right now. It is making money and it is going to pay the bills for me to make things that I like.
Right.
I purely look at it as, I'm like, this is a project. It's going to pay my bills. It's going to take care of me for the next 2 years so that I can make a show which a small audience will see. So while I'm investing in that FD, I'm also doing, Masi content is literally that for me.
Right.
That's one. And two, also just... you can't, and comics tend to do this, is that when we get brand work, we make it so ironic. We're very like, you guys don't understand our voice. You don't have time for that, buddy. They're paying you an amount that you don't deserve, because they could easily give that money to someone else and they would do a better job. So if you're getting that amount, keep the irony aside and do it legit. Like my biggest example for that is Abhish. He does every brand content with so much heart, with so much, like, he gives way more than he gets, therefore the brand constantly wants to work with him, and he gets to fund his own Son of Abhish or fund his own shows, which is for me, which is what I keep looking at. Him, Tanmay, these are people who do brand with a lot of vigor, because they know yaar paise de rahe hain. Like, it's in the end, I would expect that. If I give you money, I'm like, put your 200% because I paid up. So for me, it's very like, these take care of your bills, but just because they're taking care of your bills doesn't mean you just do it. Put your heart to it. Like,
absolutely.
It's content in the end.
Absolutely. But that's with brands. Let me turn this to what happens when you're drafted onto a project which you may not completely agree with or believe in. Maybe the treatment, maybe the characters, maybe the premise itself is just like, hey, I could do this better. But maybe you're not in that driver's seat then. How do you reconcile that? I know it's a heavy question. But
so I think Sumukhi and I have been in an interesting situation last year where we saw a project we were working on together go in a slightly different direction than we had planned.
Tell us more.
Can we? I mean, honestly, it was just about, we wanted to do a show with a certain tonality. We wanted it to be sensitive and we wanted it to be relatable and all of these other buzzwords. But what was happening is that our show was becoming, for lack of a better word, massy, slowly.
And this was the weight loss show that you're talking about?
Yeah. We wanted to do a show about, like, honestly, very genuinely exploring, like, the space, the mindset, the psychology, and like body image issues. But it came to a point where it was just like, acha, abhi Hindi mein karo aur sabko rula do. So we were like, okay, now we can't do that. That show didn't quite go anywhere. But you know what? Whenever I personally am in a situation where I have to do something that I don't agree with, I just don't do it. I drop it. Mostly. So, because, I do.
Dude, that's a lot of guts.
That is, it is a hard call. It is.
Yeah, but it's easier on the conscience. And it's good to have those filters. Like, I never work with brands like that aren't cruelty free, which is why you won't see a lot of beauty work in my portfolio. Or if it's not a brand that's politically aligned. I try to keep my distance, which is nice. I don't know. How do you deal with it?
I think I'm still learning that. Like, I'm still trying to see what works for me, what doesn't work for me. Like, certain things that really don't work for me is that I know I've been approached by a lot of fairness brands. And I know that doesn't work for me. Like, it's not even about fairness. I'm like, buddy, I'm getting my money because I'm dusky. So, मैं अपनी पेट पे लातने नहीं आना. It's a very dumb thing to first of all sell.
Dude.
But like, makeup now, I will sell because I'm not very aware of the concept of
It's
cruelty.
also like it's a personal thing. Like
Yeah.
it's important to have personal filters. It's not
Yeah.
about like it's not about like unwoking the next person and
Right.
being like I'm
Fair.
the best. It's just making sure we have certain filters always helps in choosing the right kind of work you want
It's
to do.
what
So
you
you'll
stand
be
for.
happy, right?
Yeah.
It's really simple. You'll just be happy doing the project. You don't do something and be cribbing halfway through saying, I don't get along with this person. I don't believe in this. You'll never be happy doing something if you're not into it. It's just that.
Honestly,
just say no.
only
Yeah.
filter I have is that I truly don't do best friend roles.
Right.
I truly don't do like
Yeah.
roles where they expect me to be a domestic help. Because I know I did Parvati Bai, and I've also gotten a lot of information where they're like, listen, you're in the whole class system, you are ahead and you are
Right.
punching down.
Down, correct.
And I honestly didn't see it, and now I do, and
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I've stopped doing that, because I'm like, if I'm agreeing with them means I'm somewhere learning something.
Correct.
Although I mean I regret because I love the character. So very recently I remember I was doing an Instagram live session where they was like, oh, why aren't you doing Parvati Bai? I'm like, do you guys think I should make her like a customer service representative? Like she got a bump up. Because she has the skills and now she's working somewhere else, and a lot of people are like, yeah, because we'd like to hear this character there. And I was very surprised that I'm like, why didn't I think of this as a creator before? So but I still keep these like the best friend roles out, is because you really need to stop.
Too much tropey.
Yeah, and also just like how long will you think the big girls are going to be best friends? I'm
Right.
like, at least give us villain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, something else. I'm like, कोई 2D चले जा रहा है, that hot girl, she needs a classic best friend to be like, तुम तो कितनी hot हो. I was like, she knows, she has a mirror. Just get over it, baba.
Right.
So these are the only, like in my space, I keep things which I don't want to repeat. Like I don't want to repeat a character. I now get crazy girl. I get crazy best friend.
Right.
Because they're like, ma'am, आप crazy भी हैं पर आप foodie भी हैं.
But that's a little bit of a
How much does that
a
happen
little
to
bit
you?
of a
Like,
trope
आप
there as
foodie
well,
हो.
huh?
Oh, how much? They're like, ma'am, काफी quirky character है. She's
crazy.
She's 31. ऐसे बिल्कुल बहुत ही fun है, fun. और उसको खाना बहुत अच्छा लगता है. I'm like, there be. ऐसे कितना अच्छा लगता है खाना उसको, बहुत अच्छा लगता है. Like अगर 1 to 10 में आप कितना खिलाओगे उसको? No. And I'm asking dumb questions because I'm having fun. You know how many auditions I've done? Because I go for all these auditions.
Right.
It's so much fun. Can I tell you guys? I auditioned for Houseful 4.
Right. Oh wow, lovely.
Sumukhi,
Yeah.
how can you keep this
From us. Yeah,
and
this
then
is
tell us at this
pertinent
podcast?
information.
I auditioned for the character Giggly.
So you were taking Masi seriously.
Yeah. The thing is, I've never been to auditions.
Oh.
Okay.
Ah.
And I'm like, I need to go for auditions just to understand how, because I know auditions are harsh. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I can't just be sitting in my dumb open mic and be like, I don't know why actors complain. So I want to do auditions, and I auditioned for this character called Giggly. I don't know if she finally made it to Houseful 4. She is Chunky Pandey's love interest.
Oh,
okay.
wow.
So Chunky Pandey is pasta.
Yeah.
And she's Giggly. Okay, so they're like made for each other. And I will tell you guys my lines. I know I don't care if you're gonna put it, but I need to tell you guys
No,
these
we'll
lines.
put it.
Okay, is that the whole lines was that, oh, I'm like some Rajkumari is there, and then these guys obviously lied to the Rajkumari like every Houseful series. Okay, and then I'm like, आपने Rajkumari से झूठ बोला, मैं Rajkumari को जाके अभी बताती हूँ, and then I start running. Okay, and then this one says what's his name?
Was
Chunky
it
Pandey.
Rajkumari's name was Rajkumari.
Yeah.
only, okay.
Oh, in the script also, by the way, I'll get to that later. But the Chunky Pandey was, so I'm running, and then Chunky Pandey is like, रुक जाओ Giggly, and I say, हट जाओ पास्ता, छोड़ो मेरा रास्ता, तुम्हें मेरे प्यार का वास्ता.
Oh, that is some gunda level shit.
That's really good, yeah.
And then I start running again, and then he's like, रुक जाओ Giggly, and then he cuts his hand. Okay, and then he does this, and then the blood flies and falls on my mang.
Oh my
Okay,
god.
and I'm married
Listen,
to
I
him.
love this.
And now I'm married to him. So I'm like, oh, Swami. Because I giggle, right? Giggly. So I'm like, oh, Swami. So I did this. I remember in my audition. I'm like, oh, Swami.
Oh my god. That is
And
some next
yeah,
level
that
creativity.
is really,
I would
really
like to
next
see
level.
this, but directed by Michael Bay.
So the hand cuts off, there's an explosion.
And this audition was so, I mean, they were like, ma'am, आपने आग
this
लगा
sounds
दी,
out
ma'am.
there, man.
क्या आग लगा दी आपने, आप और giggles कर सकती हैं, मैं और giggles किए जा रही हूँ because I have a चुड़ैल laughter. Some way, they're like, ये तो बड़ा ही अच्छा है, because basically anything that's ugly for them is very like, ma'am, आप ये करिए.
Chalega.
Yeah, because it's also for them big. They don't see big girls as anything.
Right.
I'm not saying attractive norm. I'm like, there is a character to every body frame.
Right.
Be it a short person, be it a big person, be it a tall person. I'm sure there is a personality associated to that, which is my standard thing of like, you know, for the longest time for Pushpavalli, they said, how can you make Pankaj Naveen angry? Isn't he short? I didn't see the relation. I'm like, what are you saying?
There's some stereotypes
Such
we
a-
bought into
Isn't
it.
it
Yeah, they're like,
short?
tall people should be angry, short people should be meek. It's like, yeah,
Okay.
then your mom should be dumb to give birth to you. What do I do about it?
Okay,
Come
then.
on.
So,
But no, I see it.
then,
It is stereotypes. It is exactly what pisses me off a lot, right? I mean,
But this is something Sumukhi said to me last year that's always stuck with me is the reason you wrote the role of Pushpavalli was because she said I was sick and tired of being offered the best friend role. So I was like, I'll just make a role for myself.
right.
That's exactly
it's actually
what-
the truth. Angry best friend is all I got all the time. A fat best friend, angry best friend, or angry fat best friend. She gets angry, she eats, and she's your best friend. I'm
That's
like,
a great way to, like, she was the angry best friend. Like, she kept being given that role. She got pissed off. She made a role for herself. She made a show. And then that show is, like, one of the best things out there right now. So that's a great way to, like, channel the frustration of
Totally.
constantly being, like,
But I was
talked
also
down to
cribbing
and
too. I was
whatever.
like, how they can write like this? I'm like, babe, what's your problem? I'm telling myself, I'm like, तू लिखना.
हाँ, correct.
पढ़ी लिखी है.
Correct.
सीख सकती है. Hardworking, you go around with a jhanda. Okay, work on a little bit.
No, what I really love.
Sorry, I have a
please go on.
question
Yeah.
for both of you, which just struck me while we were thinking. So, since we've been talking about voice and like seeing how we can extend that voice in different places and all, what do you think makes more sense? Like, does it make more sense to dip your feet into everything out there, occupy as much space as you can, and then eventually, like, something or the other is going to work out? Or is it more sensible to just remain in like what is working out for you? I don't mean in a get out of your comfort zone way. I mean, like, if you found a voice, if you found a certain like aesthetic that works for you, you keep like working at that again and again and again until at some point it works out. Like, what do you think makes more sense? What are the differences between these approach?
Go for it.
I have. I would like to think that I've kind of at least figured it out for myself. There are two things that I keep in mind. Right, number one, I fundamentally decide what I don't want to be associated with. Right, I mean, what resonated with me most when Sumukhi said fairness cream says, I have.
Yeah.
There's no way that you will get me to work on a fairness cream again in my life. Right, 2013 or 14, I worked on a campaign for Fair and Lovely because I was beholden, but no more. Right, so number one, I think it's important that creators, storytellers, story sellers figure out what not to sell or not to make. Right, number one. Second is, if you found your voice, right, and this is again, I am trying to do this with the kind of entertainment I associate and I kind of evangelize with people, is that the concept of most advanced yet accessible kind of makes sense to me, right? If you know this is what I want to make, this is the kind of voice I want to bring forward, this is the kind of stuff I want to talk about, etc. If you're still looking for people to tune in and a large mass of people to tune in, it's important that you have incremental doses of that amazingness going out, right? You drop all of it on them at once and a lot of people may just be alienated. But if you find a way to wrap it into something that is already accessible, for example, Little Things, right? The show Little Things.
Yeah.
It's not the most out there concept, but there's still something new about it that keeps bringing you back.
The
right?
writing, it's just,
The writing is lovely. It's very, very. It's chosen what it wants to say.
Yeah.
Right. They don't want to bring in a pregnancy conflict. They don't want to bring in a larger social commentary on society. They don't want to bring any of that. They're very clear. This is what we want to do.
Yeah.
But they keep throwing in new stuff. Right. And I think season 3, season 4 are being commissioned and out there, and it's doing very well. So that, I think, is the trick, really. If you've zeroed in on what it is that you want to do as a creator or as a person, for that matter, it's important to gain acceptance by understanding that audience, right? I mean, for example, comedy. I mean, we've had comedy for what? Stand-up comedy the way we know it.
Yeah.
We've had it for what, 8-10 years,
Yeah.
maybe. Before that, stand-up comedy would be Johnny Lever selling out stadiums.
Yeah.
Right? We've come from there to club-based comedy scene, and it's been a slow grind build, right? I mean, it's undeniable that it is there. It may not have had its gully boy moment, but you've done it with Comicstan and you've done it with a few other things that have incrementally given you more audiences to play around with, right? And I think that shows a bit of humility on the part of the creator to say, hey, I understand that I want to create with these people, for these people. it also shows a lot of ambition on the part of the creator, saying, hey, I'm not interested in Houseful 4, and maybe I am, but that's not all I want to do. I know that I need to do X to do Y. The rule that we had at TVF was we'll do 1 for ourselves and 3 for them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that keeps the wheel turning. That
Yeah.
keeps the wheel turning both with a personal satisfaction. It keeps the wheels turning with your bank balance.
For sure.
Right?
That I 100% relate to. Like with branded content, it's just that.
Yeah.
At least like one thing that keeps you going for the rest of the time you're doing. Like
Right. So that concept, you call it Maya, most advanced yet accessible.
there's a phrase for it.
Interesting.
I learned.
It is, yeah.
I learn something new every time I meet Vineet.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, last
I
time
can
he
see.
gave me like all this gyan on K-pop. So
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that.
no, it was really good. All I've been doing since then is watching like K-pop.
I love K-pop. I love Korean. I
I'm
love
the
K-pop.
exact opposite of that. I'm dipping my hands into everything.
Right.
Because I'm insecure. My entire life runs on insecurity. So I'm worried that one thing is not going to work. So let the other thing be ready. And I know it's wrong. I know because I'm going to burn out faster than the others. But I know that the only way I'm going to learn is for me to experience everything and then pick my favorite. So as much as you know how tired I am, Nisha, most of the time.
Always.
I imagine this is how...
But I think that's the state of this generation. We're tired.
Yeah, but
but
Sumukhi takes
another
it to
podcast.
another level. If all of like the millennials are very tired, Sumukhi is dead.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
But can I tell you, I'm so happy that I'm tired. At no point am I like, I'm so tired. Like every time someone is like, are you tired? I'm like, yes. And it fills me. I'm like, oh, that means that I'm using my time as much as I can. And I know fundamentally it's not going to do very well for my body, for my mental health. And I'm very aware of that. Like last week, because I had a routine because I worked out. I wrote during the day, I wrote a show. And then in the evenings, I was like, let me take a break from open mics. And evenings were just to myself. So I went to sleep at like 11.
How lovely.
I panicked.
Really?
Vineet, I panicked. I was talking to Rohan and I was saying, Rohan, I need to talk to you about something because I know Rohan likes routines and he's all about take breaks. Okay, so I'm talking to Rohan Joshi and I'm like, Rohan, I need to talk to you about something. And he got very like, what? Okay, did something happen? Why is she talking to me like this? I'm like, so I just want to know that this is what I'm doing. Should I be guilty? And I swear to God, for a moment, he wanted to punch me. Just for a moment. Then he's like, no, don't be guilty. I'm like, but am I being lazy? Is it wrong? So I know that's the space I come from, but I still don't want to give it up yet because I want to see, is it stand-up? Is it content creation? Is it acting? Or is it being a showrunner? Or is it being a producer? Or at some point a director? Which one is suitable for me? I still don't know. Or maybe everything is suitable for me. I'm in that confusion. I'm in that insecurity of I don't think one is going to be enough for me to last.
Sure.
And until I get over that feeling, because I don't want to be like, I don't want to teach that to myself and then regret. I just want to see if I can experience it and find it. I have a feeling it's going to be acting and stand-up.
Right.
But then I start writing shows and I love it. And I've been writing a show for the past 2 weeks. Guys, how much I missed a writer's room, I forgot. And I was like, oh shit, now I like this also. Now what do I do? So I'm dipping myself in all of the space. And I know deep, I know at the back it's going to lead to hair fall, which is why it is leading to hair fall. But I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm ready to pick one or two, which I should, I know, so that I do it well, but I don't know. I don't know yet.
No, I mean, from what I've read about people who are not just one type of entertainer, right? Eventually you do get known for 2 or 3 things. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
But
I
it's
know.
great that you're putting yourself out there and, learning by doing or by experimentation. Because how else will you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it, but what if 5 years later I burn out, guys? Then you guys are
won't.
responsible to be like, Sumukhi, pick one and just stick to it.
We'll text you next week and tell you to take a break.
Yeah, we'll call you and be like,
We'll all
are you
call
asleep at 11?
No,
In fact, anyone-
because he called me at 3 o'clock.
So yeah, I mean, like, great insight there, I think, about I know what I want to put out there, but I don't know what is what is my best position, right? I mean, it's a bit like football, right? And I know Nisha plays football.
I mean, I do play football, guys, right?
Yeah,
Cool.
Sumukhi plays football as well.
God, I don't know anything about football.
But it's like trying out different positions and
Yeah.
seeing what works best for you. You'll always be an entertainer, ergo you'll always be a footballer, but find out what works best for you. And it's great. It's a different way of approaching it, obviously, for, different strokes for different folks. But it's important to do that.
I finally know where that's correct to use. I finally know it makes sense here. It's not sounding dirty.
And now Sumukhi's.
Sumukhi Sumukhi, man.
But hey, now you've learned something new
Yeah,
today. It's
different
fantastic.
No, it's not.
Learning things with Vineet Kanabar.
That's the podcast name.
Yeah. Next one, Kavita. That's what we're doing. Right. Let me bring this back. Again, I know a lot of people might consider my next question to be a bit of a cliche, but it's important to consider who I'm asking it to, and with people like Nisha and Sumukhi who have diverse experiences, ambitions, it's important to know where their inspiration comes from. Guys, who are creators or people that you're looking up to and you're being like, okay, maybe I don't want to be the next that person, but then the Sumukhi Suresh I want to be known as, or the Nisha Vasudevan I want to be known as, should have a little bit of that.
You know, my lack of awareness really helps me, because when I started making, they're like, so what kind of creator do you want to be? Do you want to direct or make like a Judd Apatow? I'm like, who? Who's he? Because when I grew up, I was not watching a lot of TV. I was not. But the thing is, I was never ready for entertainment industry.
Right.
So I don't know the references. I watched Bollywood. Or I watched things that
that could be
We'll take a Bollywood
but the thing is
inspiration.
exactly, Bollywood is, you know what inspiration Bollywood is? Bollywood is not my inspiration. That's my inspiration. Because I'm like, for me, as much as Bollywood is very entertaining, there are very few moments in Bollywood where it suddenly becomes interesting. Like, you know, it's like a Naseeruddin Shah's content. Like, I know he did a Tridev for money, but you know that he has done like something else for not money. Like, that's the guy who's the villain in Sarfarosh. He starts so many new things, and he's arrogant about his art form.
Oh, totally.
And he's totally making money from it, clearly. I mean, Naseeruddin Shah is one of the most sought actors. So the lack of references honestly helps me, is because my entire inspiration comes from what are my stories. And that is the rule of any writer or a content creator who's starting new, is that draw inspiration from yourself because you know it best, and then diverse into fictitious. Don't start with mera character kutta hai jo space mein. I'm like, oh my god, this is not going to lead anywhere.
That's what I've been doing wrong.
Dog in space.
God.
So since I don't have that,
Yeah, but a dog in space is exactly like a Nisha type of character.
because I don't have the idea for it. I don't know how that works,
Right.
and I'm still figuring it out. But all I know is I know my stories, and I don't. You know enough because I've told you, and you've seen my family. I think my family is enough for good 6 shows. They're all batshit crazy. Okay, although they all think they're regular, which makes them more crazy.
Right.
So for me, each of their life experiences, I will make stuff out of it, and I'll of course pay them because it's my family.
Yeah.
They might sue me.
Yeah, no, I remember. I'm just going to just say this because I remember meeting Sumukhi at Nagpur airport, and Sumukhi was just, I think, heading back to Bombay from a conversation with her mom, and I think her mom had started a mandir.
My mom has a mandir.
She has a mandir.
Yeah, my
Like, this
mom's
is just
building a
her
temple.
own mandir.
Yeah, this is her own temple. My mom's, you know, if you think, hey Sumukhi, you need to calm down, you should meet my mother. Because my mom one fine day was like, I don't want to do, my mom's a chartered accountant, and for a chartered accountant, we were quite poor. It's amazing. Anyway, so then one fine day, my mom's like, I don't want to work anymore because I've had enough. I'm like, okay, cool, you've had enough. And she's like, I want to enter spirituality. I'm like, okay, spirituality. You know how it is. All moms, it's very like all moms, like, ooh, all the boys are like, girls are like rock bands, guitarists. And all the moms go, Guruji. So which is what my mom meant. And then cut to a week later, my mom turns up at home with a full-fledged Devika Murti, dude. And I'm like, what? Because my mom used to constantly go to a temple, and then that temple got destroyed. She's like, how can it destroy a temple? I'm like, you know, lots has happened in this country.
Oh shit.
So come on. So then my mom brought her, and then we're like, okay. In my head I was like, okay, cool. Okay, so now like normal people, we're going to give it back to where it belongs. And then 3 days later, my mom's like, I've decided I'm going to make a temple. And she's making it.
Wow.
She has a 80 lakh budget. We have no money for it, by the way.
Can she just give us that money to make some
Thank you.
stuff about dogs in space or something? I don't know.
Thank you. Because my mom's like, I don't know. I'm like, 80 lakhs is the budget. I'm like, how much do you have? 8,000. Literally.
I'm telling you, the autobiography of Laika, sponsored by Sumukhi's mom,
Yeah.
is exactly what needs to happen.
I'll even throw in one.
You know how
mandir
many
seed.
times I've gone to that temple and made prasad because Bablu, the cook, never comes. That man is such a scam, by the way. वो कभी नहीं आया. And every time I go there, I'm making 200 people के लिए tamarind rice. I'm like, what is this life that I'm leading? If you guys come to Nagpur and see me at temple, you'll be like, babe, relax.
Are you okay?
Is everything okay? Because I'm wearing salwar kameez where nobody will f me. Like even people who are interested in salwar kameez will not me.
Oh, cool.
It's very ugly.
Like at the temple, what's
It's
going
just the worst.
Oh, shit, why?
You know, there's no vibe only. You know how they have these scenes where they're like, temple girls, yummy. She's conservative but yummy. I'm exactly not that.
Like that Apsara aesthetic.
I don't know what I have aesthetics. I'm just cooking like a fucking freak. So, yes, my mom is building a temple. If you guys want to donate money, do not involve me in it.
Okay.
Do not. Although in 1 year she'll get tax breaks, so just do it then.
Oh yeah, that's the best part about building a temple. I mean, that's my long-term plan as well now, I guess.
You know, after she figures out the tax break, you should talk to her.
Yeah.
But my mom knows you and she knows. You know what? Don't talk to her.
I really want to talk to your mom.
My mom, she's intense.
Yeah, that should be a fun episode as well. We should bring her to this podcast.
You know who my mom's best friends with? I know, side note. My mom's really, even now, my mom's a big fan of Vineet's mom.
Yeah?
Yeah. She even now
we're
every
talking
time,
about my mom.
and there was a bunch of people in our school who didn't like Kanabar teacher, PRE teacher. And my mom always was like, you guys are just complainers. She works hard, and I'm just like, wow.
Oh.
You have to relax. Okay, she wears perfumes and we can't afford it. So relax. Which is my constant complaint to my mom. So my mom's a big fan of Vineet's mom that way. So which should tell you a lot about Vineet's mom, which is another podcast. Anyway.
Yeah, my mom was a teacher and taught Sumukhi for a few years as well. Yeah.
She was the one who actually called out my bullshit. And I was like, I'm fat. She's like, so then lose weight?
Okay.
I was like, okay, I don't want to hear this.
Okay, bringing this back from moms to create.
Yes, sorry.
No, I think that was
A good digression.
Yeah, great digression. I mean, like, I don't even know what to say anymore. But I will try. So we talked about inspirations, right? And we never got to Nisha.
Oh
my God, I'm
I've
so
changed
sorry,
my
Nisha.
inspiration to Sumukhi's mother, and that's it going here on. Honestly, I never know how to answer this question, Vineet. Like, I really don't. There's just so much stuff. But one thing that I've been reflecting on of late is what a huge role the music I've been interested in over the years has played in anything I do, which is not something I realized earlier. It was always compartmentalized. Okay, I like this kind of music and I do this kind of work. But just listening to a lot of this, like Riot Girl or punk rock or even metal and now K-pop, all of that stuff seeps into like the way I approach a film. That's why I have like a slightly more alternative aesthetic, which comes naturally. It's just coming from there. And this is something I've just realized recently. Apart from that, I like... One artist I really like is David Shigley. I keep posting his stuff on Instagram. He's got this really like weird and funny like... he is like, you know that subreddit I'm Very Random? Yeah, that has like bad stuff, but if it was good, that would be David Shigley.
Yeah.
I don't know how to answer this, I guess.
Oh, look at Nisha swinging when she's talking about David Shigley.
Oh, man.
Yeah, there's the big, deep fandom.
Yeah. My eyes just turn into like heart emoji.
Small blush happened, not two.
Yeah,
he's not crass.
So good. He's so good.
No, but
So like stuff in that vein of humor, him, Noel Fielding, that's totally my jam. I'm like, I love this. It's
sort
very
of
funny.
random, absurdist, yet
The
totally
mighty
like
Booth.
insightful.
Yeah, but at the same time, I also like, you know, I've noticed that I like the smaller stuff that like big directors have done. Like I love Joss Whedon's Dr. Horrible, for example. I'm like, that, I wish that was like getting a lot more hits. Like I know Buffy is great, but this is also great.
Right.
So like that's the kind of stuff I really get into. And now K-dramas. I'm watching Oh My Ghost on Netflix. Check it out, guys.
Oh My Ghost.
Yes.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
I'll start with regular first, then I'll get to Baba. I can't.
No, but K-dramas are like a real mood, man.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Totally.
It's so weird. You're like,
Full.
you start off ironically and then suddenly, it's like when we all started saying bro 10 years ago, but now we say it like as a part of daily parlance.
Oh.
Yeah.
Great. I know it's a sort of cliched, hard question to answer, especially when there are lots of inspirations that you might follow. Are there any creators that you guys look up to and be like, hey, she's doing some interesting stuff, or he's got an interesting handle on something?
I think
Indian creators, maybe?
Dhruv Sehgal is doing some fantastic work. He's got a really nice, he's got a great voice. He's doing, I don't know, he's just somehow hit the nail on like making stuff emotional and relatable without being cheesy. Like every time I watch little things or anything he's making, I'm like, wow, I totally get it. Sumukhi, of course. But yeah, Dhruv really sticks out for me as a creator.
Yeah. I like his work as well.
Yeah.
I'm
How about
actually
you?
still wondering.
Yeah.
in the recent past, I truly enjoyed the way Raj and DK made Family Man. I mean, I know it had its flaws,
so good, yeah.
but I think they really tried to merge the Masi and the script level. I know you can obviously see that they wanted to do more scripting, less Masi.
Right.
But, and there were, I mean, I like, because I think they are trying to do what all of us want to do, is merge good scripts with the Masi appeal.
Right.
And I was very interested, and I know at some point I'm going to work with them. I will go to take a script and be like, can you guys figure this out?
Yeah.
And Dhruv is so he seems so larger than life when you see him on screen, and then you meet him. He's such a like, bro, tere ko kya banane ka hai? I'm like, oh my god, what a bhel puri he is. And it's very nice because he clearly comes from a very honest space of like, that's how I want to make content. And I'm also a big fan of Naveen Richard.
Yeah. Oh, me too. Yeah. I think Naveen is the funniest. In fact, when I said David Shrigley and I said Noel Fielding, I also forgot to say Naveen Richard. I love his comedy. I love Starboys. He's so funny, man.
Naveen,
I think he's the cleverest of the comedians.
And Naveen in Better Life Foundation.
Yeah. Honestly, Naveen is the
character.
only comic as of now who can, I mean, even though I think you give me one more year and I can write a show alone. But Naveen, as of now, is the only comic who can write a show alone.
Yeah.
With a good screenplay sense, with the funnies right, because he truly has a very natural sense to it. All of us are still figuring out, and we'll get there. But that boy he can actually make a show alone.
Big endorsement for Naveen Richard there from Sumukhi Suresh. Sumukhi, Nisha, it has been awesome having you here.
Thank you for having us.
I know we started this in the morning, and you guys made time. Great having you in the room to have this conversation.
Guys, we were late. We were 45 minutes late. Bitches were late.
No, all of that apart, great having you in the room. Great conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Before I let you go, there is this one question that I ask all my guests before we close the episode out. It is a recommendation for a piece of entertainment. Could be a game, a book, a movie, a piece of music, anything that you think my listeners should listen to or watch or play.
Since this is a podcast, should we do a podcast recommendation?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be a podcast.
Okay. I don't know if this has been recommended already because this is your podcast and you like this. But if you haven't heard it, please check out Welcome to Night Vale.
Absolutely.
It's a really, really good podcast. Yeah, that's my podcast recommendation.
Yeah, check out anything that Joseph Fink has done.
Yeah,
anything.
Yeah, it's like if you like horror, it's like if H.P. Lovecraft and Terry Pratchett made a baby and then they made it in audio format.
Yeah.
So it's very nice. Yeah,
fantastic.
Sumukhi? So there is a podcast with Phoebe Waller-Bridge on it by
Elizabeth Day.
Yeah.
It's called How to Fail.
Yeah, How to Fail. And this was right after I think Fleabag 2, and she also was writing the Bond movie. You know, it's a classic. If someone is creating content, you should, especially comics who are creating content, you should watch. You should hear it for sure, because there's such a breezy way that she speaks, and I relate to her majorly because she sounds so much like the way I write, which is very last minute. Okay, I need to write the scene in one day and I need to finish it. And someone who's more performance oriented than, like, she performs and then writes.
Right.
She performs a piece and then she's like, oh, okay, I can figure it out. So that, and also just I mean, I know I'm putting it in a gender box, but a lot of women who wish to create content, because Phoebe Waller-Bridge almost makes it sound fun. She doesn't make it sound agenda driven. Right. It's very like, I just want to make it. She's very breezy to listen to. So that, and if you guys are watching a show, please watch Euphoria. Yeah, it's an HBO show. Cool. What a show! Because very basic, premise is very simple, but the visual treatment, and I have newfound respect for visual and music treatments now because of that show.
I've been meaning to watch it.
I will check it out.
Very simple premise. You will not be like, what a script. You would just be like, what a great, treatment for the show. So,
Great. Fantastic recommendations from both Nisha and Sumukhi.
Cool.
Guys, once again, thank you so much for making the time and sharing your stories on Storytellers and Storysellers. This is Vineet Kanabar saying bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Satyajit.
Hi, I'm Racheta.
We are from the Open Library Project and we host a podcast called Paperback.
Paperback is a podcast where we engage with stalwarts and experts from various industries, suggesting non-fiction titles that contributed to their journey in a big way.
We've had guests like Anjali Rana, Dr. Marcus Rani, Dr. Swati Lodha, Ambi Parmeswaran, Apurva Damani, and many more on our show Paperback. Find new episodes every Wednesday on IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.